You good? All right. Here we go. Speed. 3, 2, 1. It's time for the Mission Story Slam podcast, brought to you by PWP Video. I'm Michael Schweisheimer. I'm the executive producer at PWP Video, Mission Story Slam, and later tonight, I get to see David Byrne perform at the Met with my childhood bestie, who shares my love for the Talking Heads and Byrne. Jeffy and I are heads. Speaking of shows with a cult following, Mission Story Slam 13 is just around the corner on Tuesday evening, November 18th at National Mechanics. Get your tickets now. This one could well sell out. We are part of Generosity's Philanthropy Week, and we're using their theme of Braver Today. So learn about other events at phlanthropyweek.org. That's PHLANTHROPYWEEK.org. I also want to shout out our media sponsor, the Philadelphia Citizen. Their big festival, Ideas We Should Steal, which includes a new opening event called Ideas We Should Scale that I'm excited about, is coming up just ahead of the Slam. That's happening on November 13th and 14th. You can learn more at philadelphiacitizen.org and get your tickets there. And last bit of business, we're still looking for our new lead sponsor. So if you'd like to reach our audience of very engaged do-gooder Philadelphians, just drop an email to info@pwpvideo.com. There are many reasons that we started Mission Story Slam, and from the get-go, a big hope was that we would get to know our friends and colleagues better. And boy, have we. From the very first Slam, when my friend, artist Karen Singer, told her story of being a survivor of intimate partner violence, of which I had zero idea, to when I found out that Adam Teteris of Indy Hall was a kidney donor to one of his best friends, I have learned things I bet I never would have, even over dinner and drinks. Today's guest, Marta Rusek, was about as open as you can get in her story, and I'm going to play it now so we can all be on the same page.
So I'm Marta, and the thing you have to know about me is I am a very particular person. My entire life, I have had very particular tastes and timelines. I always do things at my own pace and when I am ready to do them. And case in point, when I was a little kid, before the age of 3, I barely spoke. I would only speak between the hours of 2 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We do not know why. We think I loved routines. So I didn't speak until the age of 3. I did things at my own pace. I would watch the same movies over and over and over again, and I wouldn't watch the next one until I was ready to. I also had a very limited palate. So the only things I would eat, I kid you not, saltines, pizza, my mom's mashed potatoes and gravy, and pumpkin pie. Thanksgiving was a holy day for me. It was my favorite holiday by far. So this continued as I got older. I did things at my own pace. I did start to branch out and try new things when I was in my 20s, and I didn't get my driver's license until I was about 29. And there's a very good reason for that, and that is I really love riding on public transportation. I also love riding on trains, and I love riding on buses. So our story begins on a bus. Now, this is 2013. My family was living in Philadelphia. I was living in Jersey City. And I would come home just about every weekend because I'm really close with my mom, my sister, and my nephew. And I wanted to see them every chance that I got. So had a good visit on the bus, Bolt bus or Megabus, RIP to both of them because they're not around anymore. And I'm heading back to Jersey City. I'm reading one of those free newspapers, and unfortunately, the name of it has been lost to my history. I do not know if it was City Paper or Philly Weekly. Both, I think, are RIP at this point. I swear I don't kill buses or newspapers. That is not the point of the story. So I'm reading it, and there's an article that catches my eye. And it's an article about a man who was diagnosed with autism at age 40. I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And there was a list that went with it, a list of symptoms of, this was what he noticed about himself that prompted him to get diagnosed. So just imagine me, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, ready to get home and start the week, and I'm reading this list, and I'm thinking, I have that kind of experience. Yeah, I know all about that symptom. And that one. And that one. And that one too. So it was by the end of this list that I realized, crap, I am autistic too. Now, if the version of myself today was able to talk to that woman back then, it would have been a moment of relief. This explains why I didn't speak very much when I was a kid. It explains why when I was little, I used to crescendo clap when I got very excited. At some point, I stopped doing that, probably because somebody said, don't do that. Normal people don't do that. And it's probably why I had a very limited palate. The other thing I'll mention is my reference to the world was movies. I watched a lot of movies with my parents. I watched a lot of movies with my friends. And anytime I didn't understand the world or why things were the way that they were, and I needed to know how to proceed, I would go back to a movie reference. And the only movie reference I had in my mind at that moment was Rain Man. I know. If you've never seen Rain Man, it's a story about an emotionally immature man who takes a trip across the country, and Dustin Hoffman is there with him. It's quite a movie. So the other thing you need to know about Rain Man goes, Dustin Hoffman's character, he goes back to the institution at the end of the movie. So I've just realized I have a disability. My point of reference is Rain Man, and I'm thinking, oh God, I'm going to be thrown back into an institution. Yeah, even though I hadn't been there to one before, I'm like, I must have been there at some point. I'm going to be thrown into an institution. I'm never going to get married or have a job, and I'm going to have to learn how to count cards to make Tom Cruise happy. I was scared. It was horrible. So like any other normal person, I said, I'm just not going to think about this. I'm going to try really hard to blend in, and maybe nobody will notice. Narrator, that was a terrible idea. Because what it did is it made it more obvious about who I was. And if you've never met a person with autism and you've never been able to ask them, hey, what's that like? It's like being an elephant walking down the street during traffic. You do your best to just kind of have fun and enjoy it until everybody starts beeping their horns at you and letting you know you are doing everything wrong. So 2 years go by. And fortunately, two things happened that kind of turned the tide and made me realize maybe this isn't a bad thing after all. The first thing is I had a friend that I basically told my secret to. I think I'm autistic. And God bless him, he's a man named Barry, and Barry is a Quaker. And Quakers believe that there is that of God in all of us, and all of us have something to contribute, and all of our lives have meaning. And God bless Barry, I still remember to this day what he said to me, which is, if you need to go get a diagnosis to feel better about what this means or to get answers, you can. I just want you to know we still think you're wonderful and nothing has changed about the way that we see you. And I was like, all right, let's do this. The other thing that happened, because I love movies so much and pop culture had been kind of a teacher for me at that point, I looked for somebody who was better than Rain Man that could kind of be a guide to me as I navigated this journey of getting a diagnosis and making sense of what this all means. And I settled on Mr. Spock. So, yes, this is Mr. Spock. Mr. Spock, if you don't know, on Star Trek, Spock is a child of two worlds. He's half human and he's half Vulcan. And what that means for him is he's a little too human. He's a little too Vulcan to be human, and he's a little too Vulcan. He's a little too human to be Vulcan. So he doesn't really belong anywhere, but that means he has permission to go everywhere. And so basically that is how I've lived my life since I got my diagnosis. I had my 10th anniversary last Thursday, so it's been 10 years of me. Thank you. If you're ever looking for gift ideas for the 10th anniversary, highly recommend writing to RFK Jr., telling him to resign and leaving people like me alone. Yeah! Because we're fine the way that we are. And I've lived my life unapologetically. I didn't get married, but I really have leaned into my life as a bisexual woman. So equal opportunity heartbreaker. I'm also the only person tonight that has a disclaimer. Everybody in the first two rows may get wet. So you've been warned. Living unapologetically also means not shying away from who I am. And you get asked a lot of weird questions from people like, did you get it from a vaccine? No, that's been thoroughly debunked. You don't look autistic, neither do you. So my kink now is letting people know that's really messed up. Please don't say that ever again. But when it comes to living into myself authentically, I think a lot about my friend Keenan, who had told me there is no expiration date to being yourself, to becoming who you are. And so that is the advice that I leave with you tonight. If you're like me and you're wondering why you've never fit in, why you have a different communication style, why you process information incorrectly or differently than everybody else, there is nothing wrong with you. You are part of a wonderful community that loves you, that needs you. And if you are not an autistic person, now is the time for you to stand up for the people that you love who are.
Hooray! That's so good. It really is.
Thank you. What's funny is when I watch that, all I can see are the mistakes. Like, I don't think that was one of my best performances. So it means the world when people say, hey, I saw you at the Mission Story Slam. You did great, because I was disappointed in that performance. I thought I could have done better. As a social media consultant, I really thrive on encouraging people. Like, we don't want perfection. We want to build community, and we want to show people in our community something that they can't get anywhere else. So it's a nice reminder to myself, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be honest and authentic, and the rest will fall into place.
And I mean, what are you talking about? Like a couple little stumbles, or like the human Vulcan moment?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it only proved that you were, part human, part Vulcan anyway.
You go.
It just backed up everything that you were talking about in the first place. So
right on.
I love that story and the way that you told it. And by the way, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to talk with you today, Michael.
This is fun. I've been looking forward to this. I've been trying to remember when we met. I swear I met you before Women Against Abuse.
I feel like you're one of those people that's a legend in Philly. Like, I know you, but I haven't met you yet. And we did finally meet for real, I think, over at Greater Philadelphia Cultural Alliance's annual meetup party, where they share their annual report. They talk about here is the state of art in Philadelphia. We waited in this long ass line. And
the longest line ever.
Yeah, we were veterans of the long line, and we became friends for life as a result of that line. So even though it was irritating that we got to see people with plates of delicious looking food, we got something better. We got the gift of friendship by waiting in that line.
Oh, that's very nice.
It's true.
That was a fun time. And, it was a thing with the line. I wouldn't diss the Cultural Alliance. they had their event again a couple nights ago.
Yes, it was this week. Also, your hair looked amazing that night. I don't know if I got a chance. I'm just like, Michael's got great hair. And that's one thing I wish that more people would do. I really go out of my way to let my male friends know, you look nice today, get them flowers.
Oh, it's so cool.
Well, seriously, because we all have deep emotional stories and emotional selves. And bad things happen, as I mentioned during the Story Slam, when you suppress who you really are. Men have such a deep, beautiful, emotional experience like women do. And unfortunately, toxic masculinity tries to tell us that's not true, that men are strong and they're tough and they don't feel pain. So I think it is incumbent on all women, trans folks, non-binary folks to let one another know you're safe with me. I think it's better when you are your authentic self. I do better when everybody around me feels safe, happy, and comfortable. So I try to give that permission to anyone, whoever you are, whatever your life experience is. If you are still closeted and that's not a closet that you're ready to come out of yet, just know that there are no closets needed in this space when I'm around. You can really say whatever you need to.
Thank you. By the way, that's all lovely. And I think we all need to be reminded that creating safety, particularly, always, but these days it feels a little extra important. There's a little lack of safety going on somehow or another. But I'm thinking back to being in that line with you, and I feel like that night, it's not the first time we met. I know we'd met before, and I'm
sorry, I don't remember.
It's fine. I know that we had worked together on some of the Women Against Abuse stuff, particularly around Domestic Violence Awareness Month in October.
Which is happening right now, baby.
That's right. Welcome to October. So I remember being in that line with you, because it was a good long time to get to know each other. And I do feel like you had mentioned something about being neurodivergent. And I'm not sure if that's the language that you would have used. Is that?
Yeah. Neurodivergent was created as a term to explain everybody that deviates from quote unquote normal. So the neurodivergent umbrella can feature ADHD, which I also have. It can also feature dyslexia, dyspraxia, which is no matter how hard you try, you can't do math. I also get to have that. I'm sorry, that's dyscalculia.
I was going to say, I think that's dyscalculia.
Yeah, dyspraxia is, I have all the dysses. Dyspraxia is basically your limbs do not work with your nervous system like they're supposed to. I have terrible balance. I can't ride a bike. I trip over my feet all the time. It's fun.
That does not actually sound very fun, but okay.
But you learn to develop a sense of humor. One of my heroes is Mel Brooks, and Mel Brooks taught us that when there is evil or when there are bad things in the world that are trying to deprive us all of hope and happiness, we have to laugh at them because humor will disarm the most evil of evils that you can possibly think of. But all that is to say, I'm a proud member of the neurodivergent community. I am under the neurodivergent umbrella. What my official diagnoses that I have is ADHD and autism, or we love to call ourselves AUDHDers, meaning that we have both. Okay. And the other thing I'll mention real quick is not having a diagnosis is totally valid. It doesn't erase the fact that you have ADHD, you have autism. And it's really important to emphasize that because it is a privilege to be able to have a diagnosis. Getting a diagnosis now can cost thousands of dollars, depending on what kind of insurance coverage you have, and it can take years. I still feel really lucky that I was able to get a diagnosis in 2015 of autism with my insurance through FGC, the Quaker organization that I worked for at the time. So there's a lot of us out there. Sometimes you can tell somebody is maybe not like everybody else, and even in that moment, if they're not aware, just be nice. That's advice we can all take. Just be nice if you're not sure what's going on with somebody.
So there's a lot of things in that answer that I'm curious about. But one of them, you mentioned that a diagnosis is a privilege. And I understand where that could be a privilege financially. That makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
But is there any level at which for you, self-diagnosis for someone versus having some kind of consultation, is there any difference in terms of not necessarily how we treat someone who's going to do some self-diagnosis, but are there any like extra questions that you have to make sure that someone isn't rushing into the deep end of a pool that maybe they don't want to swim in? Or just like trying to assign something to themselves to try to figure out some things.
Well, the way I'll answer that question is the flip side. By the way,
I'm not asking you to be a medical or psychological professional. I'm just kind of curious in terms of your experience, because you differentiated between having and not having a diagnosis.
The thing that's interesting is, and this is a statement that I'm hearing more and more that I lovingly try to tell people, this is something you should not say to a person that has revealed that they are autistic, ADHD, or another neurodivergent umbrella title. And that is someone that says, we're all a little autistic, aren't we? And the answer is actually no.
Yeah.
If you have never been fired from a job, had somebody cancel a date on you, or had a customer service agent treat you differently, talk slower to you after you revealed that you had an autism diagnosis, no, we're not all a little bit autistic. Because all three of those things have happened to me. And I actually, unfortunately, lost a few friends when I was more open about the fact that I have an autism diagnosis. So the answer to the question is, I just believe somebody when they tell me this is who they are, because it gets exhausting to have to explain what I am is not bad. It is a genetic mutation. It's not caused by vaccines. It's not the fault of my mom. But believing somebody when they tell you who they are, because like you said, I'm not a doctor. I don't do diagnoses. And because it's really hard to get a diagnosis, and a lot of people may not want that in their medical records right now, given that the administration just announced that there is a link between autism and acetaminophen, which, kudos to anyone that can say that phrase.
So kudos to you.
Who knows what my life would have been like if Barry had said, you should keep that to yourself. And I text that guy every so often to say, have I ever told you I'm very grateful that you're in my life?
I was actually going to ask you how Barry was doing and if you were still in touch, because...
Oh my God. So Barry is the general secretary of Friends General Conference, which is the liberal branch of Quaker Faith and Practice in the United States of America. Yes, there are branches to Quakers. It's really fascinating.
Well, hold on. I have to ask you a question.
Yes.
You said there's a liberal branch of Quakers.
Yes.
Is there such a thing as a conservative branch of Quakers?
There's conservative. There is evangelical. What these titles refer to is how friends worship. Okay. So the liberal branch of Quakerism participates in what is called silent worship. The other branches, sometimes there's a pastor, sometimes there is music, there is a homily. It's just like different flavors of Quakerism. What's really interesting about Quakers right now, and FGC in particular, is FGC is part of a lawsuit with other faith organizations against the Department of Homeland Security. The Department of Homeland Security is now going into houses of worship in order to kidnap immigrants. And Quakers were very big on that is a huge violation of this sacred space, and we are not going to stand for it. So my thing that I like to say to people is if you are on the side that Quakers are now suing or working hard to dismantle, you're on the wrong side of history and you need to really think carefully about what to do next.
Thank you for answering that, because the concept of conservative Quakers was very interesting to me. But Barry, how's Barry doing?
He's doing good. What's funny about Quakers is they don't have a pope. So Barry, like a general secretary, is more of an executive director role. It's not like the pope. But he's doing good. The Quakers are doing good, and they're doing really important work. And I've been telling everybody, none of us have a lot of money right now, but if you can donate to the Quakers, especially if they're participating in this lawsuit, do it, because lawsuits take time.
And a lot of money. Yeah.
Yes.
And there's going to be a lot of people who are going to need legal defense money or prosecution money in very varying and different ways these days. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's true.
We were talking about diagnoses versus not diagnoses. I am curious in terms of, from your perspective, if we were in a different time or with a different HHS secretary, like what kind of research would you be interested in having if we were, say, in a science-based society right now?
Really looking at what helps autistic people. There's been enough research done to thoroughly disprove Andrew Wakefield's thesis that autism is caused by vaccines.
Andrew Wakefield's the guy that published the bad
Yes,
study that's
the Lancet
been
article. And the Lancet did retract that article.
I just wish they hadn't published it in the first damn place, because it's been such a battle.
Well, and what people don't understand is he had a bias in that situation that should have told him, like, as a doctor, you really should not be doing this. And that is, he was an expert witness in a lawsuit where parents wanted to sue a vaccine maker. Now people can easily search this on the internet, and the anti-vax movement really caught on like wildfire.
Yeah.
And it's actively killing people because there are people out there that the idea of their child being autistic is scarier than their child dying of a preventable disease. Fortunately, more organizations have come around to, we need to stop talking about autism as something to grieve, as something that needs to be cured. And we need to start focusing on the problem is not the autistic person. It's living in a world that has a problem with autistic people. It's like you're wearing glasses right now. So those glasses help you to interact with the world that you can now see and experience more clearly because you have glasses. We need to figure out what that looks like for autistic people. So for me, that looks like more training, making sure more offices are equipped to welcome and embrace people who have autism, ADHD, and whatnot, and just more pushing back against the harmful things that RFK Jr. is saying is also what we need to be doing. But yeah, research needs to be done on what is helping autistic people. I think that's the answer to your question, is what helps, not how do we cure this or how do we stop it? Because autism has always been there. There are people that are like, it seems like everybody's getting a diagnosis nowadays. Mount Everest was always there. We just didn't see it until we had the technology and the means to go to that part of the world to see it. So do with that what you will.
You mentioned the spectrum concept.
Yes.
And I would think that's got to be pretty challenging for people who aren't living with a diagnosis or aren't living with people in their lives who are on that spectrum to wrap your head around. So how do you even define like what a spectrum means as it relates?
Yeah. It's not like bad or good, and it's not linear. It's more the color wheel.
Okay.
It's like there's all kinds of different variations. And one comment that I hear a lot that I lovingly dissuade people from saying ever again after they've said it to me is, wow, you don't look autistic. And that's gone to some pretty bad places. And I'm like, what do you mean? Oh, you're not wearing a helmet, or you don't. Yeah. Really not great things.
Okay.
We don't have a look. I think we're all sexy as hell. That's the look that we all should be aspiring to. But in terms of, right, I'm shameless.
As you should be.
Another thing I'll mention is the spoon theory. Michael, are you familiar with spoon theory?
I am entirely not familiar with spoon theory.
I'm going to blow your mind, so get ready.
Okay.
There was a woman who came up with the spoon theory, I want to say maybe 12 or 13 years ago at this point, to explain to somebody while they were at a diner, because her friend was having a lot of trouble wrapping their head around, why can't you just go about your day like normal people can? And she was like, here's a spoon. Let's say this spoon represents how much energy I have for a given task. Most people come with unlimited spoons, but if you are an autistic person, neurodivergent person, you may only get 3 spoons. And you have to really prioritize how you're using those spoons, because when they run out, in many cases, you're not able to replace those spoons. So a spoon, it might take a spoon to get to work. It might take a spoon to get through a really tough task. It might take a spoon to go to a doctor's appointment. For some people, it might take a spoon to wake up and get dressed and take a shower in the morning. But once those spoons are gone, you're done. And for some people, their spoons may not regenerate each day. Like maybe those 3 spoons are good for an entire week. And if you lose or use all of them at once, you're in bed for the rest of the week. What's interesting, somebody asked me a few years ago, are there things you can do to get spoons back or re-up your spoons? And I've actually found, because I like to go to New York City a couple times a year, it's a wonderful place to visit, but that is a place you use spoons. I really like riding on public transit, like listening to music, doing people watching. So I've found when I go to an all-day trip to New York City, especially during the Christmas holiday season, I have been able to get spoons back by doing that. That's the spectrum. Not everybody can do that. I have found a way to do that. And that's what you should keep in mind with the spectrum, is that everybody's experiences and level of spoons is going to be different. It's not that they are a bad person or that they're lazy or that they're doing anything wrong. It's just this is how we process information and how we interact with the world, and what the interactions of that world, what kind of a toll they take on us.
So another thing I was thinking about getting ready to talk to you with the idea of a spectrum is, I know a lot of times people talk about autism spectrum disorder, and I'm going to take a wild guess that disorder is your least favorite part of that phrase.
Yes. So I do not use it. I say I have autism or I'm autistic, and we leave it at that. And I'm noticing that's happening more and more, because that is upsetting to be like, I'm not a disorder. I'm not trying to be disorderly. I'm just have a genetic mutation that in my case makes me really good at remembering obscure movies. You can give me a director or a very obscure detail, and I can probably tell you what movie you're thinking about. I would have loved to have been a biological sciences autistic or a mathematics autistic, because I probably would have been able to get a mathematics degree or become a doctor and make a lot more money than I'm making right now. But this is who I am. I love telling stories. I'm good with details and movies and helping people brainstorm ideas in real time. That's the flavor of autistic that I am, and I really love it.
So actually, you know what? I think I was errant in this. What do you do for a living?
All the things.
You're not a scientist or a biologist.
I am not.
Or a mathematician, so.
Oh, I wish, because science is fascinating. The title that I have given to myself is digital storyteller. What that encompasses for me is I do social media consulting, so I can help nonprofit organizations get their story across organically. So that means we don't have to buy ads, because all the social media platforms want businesses, including nonprofits, to buy ads in order to get seen by more people. I'm also very good at graphic design to go along with those social media posts, graphic design and copywriting for e-newsletters and e-blasts. So anything digital that is used to cultivate your audience, keep your audience in the loop, and make them happy to be part of your community or to find that community, that is the work that I do. And I've just started dipping my toe into TikTok, and it's still really shocking to me that I'm getting 10,000 likes on posts, because I'm like, wow, people like to watch me talk. That's amazing.
That is amazing. That's congratulations. I didn't realize you were building up a following on TikTok. That's cool.
I am. And it still blows my mind.
Speaking of things that I gather you were surprised about, can you tell me what you're doing on Tuesday, October 28th? I saw a little post go by about something.
Oh my gosh. How did I forget that? Yes, I have been nominated for Social Media Professional of the Year by the Social Media Collective of Philadelphia, which I'm very proud of.
I'm only pausing for a second to let whatever siren was outside your door pop by. Yeah. We're just going to let Philly be Philly. Man, people do not let ambulances and
or maybe they heard me say I've been nominated and they're like, yeah, baby, we got your horn right here. Yeah.
We're going to celebrate that right now. That's awesome. So do you think the TikTok stuff plays into that, or is that more about the work that you do for other clients?
I would say the latter, the work that I do for other clients. One of my clients is actually nominated for the category It's a Philly Thing, and that is Fishtown Neighbors Association.
Oh, cool. So you've been doing social media with them as well?
Yes. I'm so grateful to Fishtown Neighbors Association because it can be a really tough sell convincing people at a nonprofit, let's try this trend. Social media changes every day, and the days of just sharing a flyer or just saying, hey, we're doing this, you should come, are done. You want your audience to feel like they have an important part to play, and you also have to play with the algorithm, which is either going to be merciful and show you to as many people as possible, or is going to be a tyrant and say, not today. Fishtown Neighbors Association they really gave me the creative freedom. If you think this is the way we should do it, let's do it. And I'm profoundly grateful and honored that work that I am doing for this organization is now being recognized by Social Media Collective.
That's awesome. Those sirens are really excited. You're right. You're in a corridor.
They're doing it for me.
Yay. They can't stop celebrating you. I don't know if I'm going to be able to be there, but I'm excited to hear about your win. How's that? It's an honor to be nominated.
There's some really great nominees this year for the Social Media Masters Awards. So I'm very honored.
So you talked about being a digital storyteller. Are you frequently a live in-person storyteller, or was telling your story at Mission Story Slam a little bit different or new?
Both. I'm my father's daughter. My father was my first storyteller, and He was so good at spinning yarns. I miss him every day. And I am grateful that he taught me how to tell stories. He really instilled a love of movies for me. So movies are not just an entryway into understanding humanity and how to pass to be a human or be a normal human. It's like being with my father long after he passed away from melanoma in 1995. So I tell stories in person. That was the first time I told that story in front of an audience like that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. It's so weird to think that I'm so open now, because even after I got the diagnosis, I thought, I don't know if I want to be public about this. Nobody seems to understand me when I say I'm autistic. It wasn't until Betsy DeVos was named as the Department of Education's director under the first Trump administration that I said I can't be quiet about this, because kids with disabilities, especially kids with autism, are going to be the first impacted by her policies. I have to be open about this and let people know there's a lot of people who are adults that are being diagnosed with autism. It's not just a little kid thing. It's not something that you grow out of. It's who you always are. And for a lot of women in particular, we just learned how to blend in and hide it, because at some point we got the message that this is not normal.
As a society, so open to women being themselves no matter what, right? Anyway, no patriarchy here in the US.
Right.
I'm pretty open about having ADHD because I actually thank you very much. And for me, part of the reason that I am isn't just to like have people understand me or something like that. It's actually, for me, it's my superpower, to be honest.
Yeah.
Really lets me be very creative, or it's part of what's in the recipe of how I am creative. And I'm wondering if you have anything similar in your experience with your autism or autism ADHD experience in terms of, because being so public, is that part of your superpower, do you think?
Oh, I love this question. And this question has become a very loaded one in the autism community.
Really?
Some people are not happy to have autism as a superpower, and I understand why. It's this idea that if somebody's using a wheelchair, if somebody's using a cane because they're blind, if somebody's autistic, we shouldn't have people like fawning over us. Oh, aren't you brave for saying that? That patting on the head of, aren't you a good girl? Not to say that it's bad to feel that way. If that is what nurtures you and makes you feel alive and proud of being an ADHDer, you should be proud. because you bring something that nobody else can to the work that you do and the teams that you work with. And at the same time, I understand why people bristle at that idea. It's, oh, great, this is something else that people are going to use to other me or make me appear different. So I think this is a moment where what works for you, what makes you feel like you are happy, in control of your life, and desirable. I like to laugh and say that idea, inside of you are two wolves. Inside of me is autism and ADHD. One craves routine and the other actively rebels against it.
Okay.
So I work with an ADHD coach from ADHD Level Up. His name is Steve Jeanette, and I would not have been able to become a consultant and run my own business and be self-employed if it wasn't for Steve's teachings.
Cool.
Until the world becomes more welcoming for people like us, having an ADHD coach or some kind of coach to guide you and propel you forward, if you can afford it, is a really good idea.
I'm pretty lucky. I was diagnosed quite young. My father was a psychotherapist. And so
Ooh.
I've been getting support and tools my whole life. So
That's nice.
So at this point, that's maybe part of why I'm considered a superpower, is because I've got a lot of the habits and ability to manage it. So it's the other things that it helps my brain do that I'm like, cool, I actually like this now.
Thanks for telling me that. And thanks for telling all of us that, because you were cool before. And now you're even cooler because we know you've got ADHD. One of us. One of us.
Google gobble, Google gobble. All right, we can go full freaks.
Yes. Such a good movie. Good old Todd Browning.
So listen, you mentioned one of my favorite filmmakers, Mel Brooks. Do you have a favorite or favorites from Mel?
I gotta go with Young Frankenstein.
I am torn between Young Frankenstein and the original, the producers. I'm not really as interested in the modern reincarnations post-Broadway, but can't wait for the Mel Brooksian approach to when we get to look back on our current situation. But there you go.
Well, he's doing it with Spaceballs. They are doing a sequel. Rick Moranis has come out of retirement to be Dark Helmet again, which is pretty awesome. I think that's why they're like, we need to do this now, because fascism, unfortunately, has come back into style, which it shouldn't be, but here we are. And comedians, late night TV hosts, and anybody with a humorous bone in their body sees how urgent this time is to use humor to say, we're going to knock their legs out from under them and show that people deserve to be treated with respect and deserve to be welcomed as they are, not as what an authoritarian regime says that they should be.
Yeah. To bring it back to Mission Story Slam for just a second, like what you're talking about, we talk about Mission Story Slam being for people in the do-gooder community, which sometimes people are like, what is that about? It's people at nonprofits, at B Corps, and like all these different activists, all these different ways of trying to make the world a little bit better. And I think, and safer and a bit more accepting. Whether or not that's a winnable thing, I don't know, but it's important to keep doing the work. So
our society really emphasizes individualism, and it's not good. People should be able to find a place to live, get the supports that they need, get health insurance and ADHD coaching, whatever they need, because they're a person and people deserve to be treated with respect. We shouldn't be viewed as lift yourself up by the bootstraps. What if you don't have any boots to lift your bootstraps up with? So yeah, my solution or suggested solution is we need to become a collectivist culture where we do nice things for each other and we cheer each other on, because if one person is abused or left behind or hurt, we all pay the price for that. If you look at the people that work for a big box company like Walmart, they're not paying their workers fair wages, so we all get to subsidize that. And they even have classes at Walmart. Here's how you sign up for food stamps, because even we acknowledge we don't pay you what you deserve, or we don't pay you nearly enough because we want to keep those profits for ourselves. So something's got to change, and we got to start looking at it as, how can me helping everybody around me help us all ascend, and not just, what can I do for myself? And how can I prove that I am not like other people and I am more deserving of money and riches and goodness than other people are? That's my TED Talk for today. Thank you so much for coming.
We'll make sure the slides are downloadable. I really appreciate you. And I'm really grateful that you came out and shared the story, came on the podcast, spoke to us about it.
Thanks for having me.
I know you've got the social media award on the 28th. Is there anything else coming up or that you're doing with clients that you want to promote before we hop off?
It's Domestic Violence Awareness Month, but that means it's every month. So I work with Women Against Abuse, which they run Philadelphia's only two shelters, emergency shelters for people experiencing domestic violence. We need many more shelters, unfortunately. 1 in 3 women, 1 in 4 men experience intimate partner violence, stalking, or sexual violence. So they're doing great work, and I'll shout them out whenever I can. You can also follow me on TikTok and Instagram at Marta from Philly. That's the handle. And I'm also on LinkedIn. I hope you'll give me a follow and we'll get to connect there as well.
I'm really glad you're here. This was super fun. So thanks for coming on the podcast.
No problem. Thanks for having me, Michael.
Thank you all for listening. By the time you're hearing this episode, we will be within a couple of weeks of our 13th Story Slam. Help us spread the word. You can direct people to our website, missionstoryslam.org. You can have them follow us on LinkedIn or Instagram. And that website's where you can grab your own tickets as soon as possible so you can bring some friends and colleagues out to National Mechanics on November 18th. The theme is Braver Today because we're part of Generosity's Philanthropy Week. And don't forget, November 13th and 14th is when the Philadelphia Citizen will be throwing their Ideas We Should Scale event, followed by their Ideas We Should Steal festival. I am in attendance, so if you look around, come say hello. The Mission Story Slam podcast is produced by Dave Winston, and it is edited by James Robinson. The pod itself is produced and brought to you by PWP Video. We are video with a mission. Find us at pwpvideo.com. So until our next episode, I will remain Michael Schweisheimer, and I look forward to sharing the next story behind the story with you soon.